Okay, so welcome back to Comic History, episode 101. There's some stuff I forgot to mention from 2012 and 2013. It's a little bit from 2012, forgot to mention for highlights, and a lot from 2013. We're also going to talk a little about 2014 as well. So, in 2012, we had a launch of a brand new ongoing series, that being Uncanny Avengers by Rick Remender. Now, Rick Remender had launched the Uncanny Avengers title, Uncanny X-Force. I think it was in 2010, and the book officially wrapped up at the start of 2013, I think it was, which is around the same time Bendis is releasing the Marvel released the final issues of Bendis' time on Avengers and New Avengers, before they were relaunched by Jonathan Hickman. Uncanny Avengers lasted 2 years, wrapped up in 2014. Though it took a while for some early issues to come out because it kept delaying it at first, and then eventually came out on time. It's very much a not well received book per se, but at the start, book came a little better afterwards. Let's see. Also, Rick Remender has started his basically his little over 2 year run on Captain America. It's been 2 years with a whole dimension. Well, basically, it's in the first 10 issues of his Captain America, where Cap went to Dimension Z, and then we had other stuff happening, which was built from stuff from Uncanny X-Force. They wouldn't officially wrap up until early 2015, his last book being Secret Wars Hail Hydra, which was his last book he released from Marvel Comics. He has done books since then. Yeah. Let's see. Off in 2013, Bendis did launch base. Now, Bendis, in 2013, because he wrapped his time for Avengers, New Avengers, he was doing Uncanny X-Men, all new X-Men. He also was still working on Ultimate Spider-Man that very year. Plus, of course, there was another series started that very year that he worked on that came out in 2013. That being his run for Guardians of the Galaxy. A run that will last until 2017. Well, around that particular point in time. It ended right after Civil War 2. Let's see. Forgot to mention for the 2011 stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff I forgot to mention here. So let's just go through the remaining stuff from 2011. There's one thing from 2011 I forgot to mention here. There was the Venom title. A really good title, by the way. Started Rick Remender, ended with Colin Bunn, lasted 42 issues, and it was one of those titles where it ended, and for a few years, I had no idea the reason why the book got canceled after 42 issues. I don't have confirmation about this, but this title, along with the Scarlet Spider title launched by Chris Yost, got canceled in 2013, and this is a rumor. I do not have confirmation about this. I heard this from one person I know who I haven't spoken to in a decade. The alleged reason why is because the editor of Spirit Spider-Man was jealous of the fact that Venom and Scarlet Spider were daring to outsell Superior Spider-Man, so the editor had those books canceled. Sounds like pure pettiness. I don't have confirmation about that because I've not talked to Colin Bunn about this, and I've not talked to Chris Yost about this. So, take it what you will. I'm trying to think, though. I don't think there's anything else I missed. Not think I think of no. So, moving on to 2014. In 2014, we still had the only thing really major happening that particular year is that we had Spider-Verse happening that very year. Of course, I also did talk about another comic history, talk about the ramifications from Access and Original Sin, which in my opinion are two really good crossovers. Spider-Verse is still a very popular story. This is something that Bendis built for a little bit in this title. Amazing Spider-Man, though they also launched in 2014 the revived Spider-Man 29 title, which is the first time Spider-Man 29 has had an ongoing series since the mid-1990s. It was the first time I had this title published while I was reading comics. It lasted for 12 issues where we can relaunch because Secret Wars. I'll get to that later. Let's see. Also during Secret Wars, Spider-Verse, we had a debut of a character who's still around publishing comics for this character. And they keep relaunching her for reasons per se. And I tend to think, like, why the heck keep relaunching her? It's like they have the book, like, with the exception of the second volume, all the rest of the volumes barely last a year, maybe a year and a half before they get canceled. Because of reasons, and I highly doubt it's due to a short attention span. I'm thinking Marvel just doesn't care to promote this character. That character being Spider-Gwen. Yeah, Spider-Verse introduces character issue 2 of Avengers Spider-Verse, which is later reprinted as Spider-Gwen number 0. And then the start of also in 2014, we had the return of the Spider-Gwen ongoing series. Well, there was a miniseries published in 2008. The first Spider-Man was ongoing since the year 2000. Yes, seriously. It was done by Dennis Hopeless. It lasted for a surprising, I think it was like 7. No, I think it was like, I don't know. It wasn't 5 issues. I think it was 10. 10 issues this book lasted for. Yep. And first 3 issues were done. This book was launched part of the whole Spider-Verse stuff. And then it's lasted for a little bit. Originally, it got restarted because of Secret Wars. And then we got the year 2015, where basically we had also in 2014 there was also the Trial of Jean Grey crossover, which is a crossover between All New X-Men and Guardians of the Galaxy. Both books were by Michael Bendis, and the aftermath we got a Cyclops title done originally by Greg Rucka, and then the last book is done by John Layman. Now, during the Trial of Jean Grey, during when Brubaker wrote and came the X-Men, he killed off Christopher Summers in the Rise of Sheer Empire storyline. And then by sheer randomness, Chris Summers is magically alive again. I think a lot of people were questioning, like, wait, I thought he died. Nope, he's alive again. And Bendis didn't bother to explain this. Oh no, it took Greg Rucka in the opening issues of Cyclops to explain this. Why was Cyclops getting an ongoing series? Simple. He decided to stay in space. Book ended with the following year's crossover, that being Black Vortex. Which also, as a result of the Guardians of the Galaxy released in 2014, they launched the Guardians Team-Up title, which was a really good title that lasted for 10 issues. They also launched Guardians 3000, a really good title done by Dan Abnett, which featured the original Guardians of the Galaxy, the ones that debuted in the 1960s. My pastor loved these because he's a comic fan too. He loved these issues, and for some weird reason, not sure why, Marvel canceled this title after only 8 issues, and didn't bring the book back after Secret Wars. I think it's one of the few that didn't bring it back at all for some weird reason. And here's also really weird. They had a Volume 1, which collected the first 5 issues of the series, and then for some weird reason, no explanation for this, the last 3 issues were published, were printed in a trade for Secret Wars. I think it was like Guardians 3000. It was a Guardians title. Guardians Infinity, I think it was Guardians Infinity. And I'm like, why is this here and not in the Guardians title? I have no freaking idea. It's one of the most weirdest things I've ever seen. 2015 did launch a few new titles that year. It launched a Spider-Gwen title, which for some weird reason, I think this record launched at only 5 issues. Now, Silk, who debuted in part of the Spider-Verse, she got an ongoing series, and for some weird reason, I saw someone when they mentioned this, they thought the book ever launched and they're releasing only 3 issues. And I didn't tell them this, and I'm like, no, it got launched after. Actually, it was 7 issues. After 7 issues. Not 3, 7. Howard the Duck, who had a cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy. He got magically a brand new ongoing series, which I loved. Zdarsky did an amazing job with the book. 2015 was also the start of, believe it or not, the return of Star Wars to Marvel Comics, which is still going, by the way. After 10 years, it's still going. Despite the fact the main Star Wars book has been relaunched twice now. Yes, twice. The first time after releasing 78 issues. The second volume on this, so technically the volume that was 78 issues, that was the second volume published by Marvel Comics. And because it was a volume published back in the 1970s. And they got relaunched again in 2020 because it was 40 years Empire Strikes Back. And they were launched again just recently, and they're wrapping up the 1 year thing for 50 issues for the book. Also, it was a boatload of really good, a lot of Star Wars stuff happening in 2015. Also, we also had the first new Star Wars movie released in 10 years, that being The Force Awakens. Released every year. 2015 also a release of Avengers: Age of Ultron, which surprisingly was actually the first time the Avengers title got relaunched. Because of it. It didn't get relaunched in 2012. They launched a new series per se. So at the start of 2015, this is a thing for the next couple years. We have a crossover start off the year, and it barely gets promoted. And I'm talking about barely. Also in 2014, we also had this weird crossover between Avengers Assemble and, I think it was 2013, it was. Yeah, it was cross between Captain Marvel and Avengers Assemble, because both titles are Michael Suhanic, so why not? Let's see. I'm trying to think. There was also a Squirrel Girl got an ongoing series that year in 2015 that got relaunched after only 8 issues, and then after they got restarted, it managed to keep going for 50 issues. Didn't wrap up fully until 2018 it finally wrapped up. Like, it is something, in fact, that product managed to last so long. Let's see. What else was there? Let's see. Well, 2015, the big thing with that year, it was Secret Wars. And the biggest issue with Secret Wars, and anybody who remembers when this title was being published at the time in 2015, this title, for some weird reason, it started this thing it was the first of 3 years in a row where Marvel Comics released a summer crossover, and get this, about halfway into the story, the book got delayed. Yes, unlike the very next year crossover, Civil War 2, which actually had a reason, this had no reason. Like, it released the first 4 issues within just the first couple months because it was supposed to come out, it was 9 issues. And for some weird reason, issue 6 was delayed by a month. And this book got delayed along with Ultimate End. Yeah, Bendis wrote this title. Yeah, and then in the aftermath, we had all new, all different Marvel Now, which resulted in every single title published by Marvel Comics hitting that damn restart button that everybody hates so badly. 2014 was okay, they didn't do many real launches that year. But after Secret Wars, here's what came out. We had Bendis on Iron Man. He's still doing, they wrapped back Jessica Jones. They launched new Defenders title because of the Netflix show. He had a Spider-Man title, which was the weakest title of all of them. Yeah, Black Knight by Frank Tieri, but that book got canceled to 5 issues due to low sales. Okay. Let's see. Avengers was, relaunched as All No Different Avengers by Mark Waid, which I met him before this book came out. With Alex Ross did the cover for this one. Oh, also in 2015, we had the end of an era that year. An end that lasted for 3 years. And the reason? Pure pettiness And thinking, why was that? So, some people do know about this. Fantastic Four ended in 2015. I have heard two completely different reasons why this book got canceled. One, because it was not a big seller of Marvel. I think it was ranked like number 28 at the time of its cancellation. The other reason, this was confirmed by Hickman. He confirmed this is the reason why the book got canceled. The reason Fantastic Four got canceled because of the blood feud between Marvel and Fox. Yes, that was the reason why. And also the reason why we also had to have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, where they retcon who their parents are. Even though that's mostly been somewhat ignored because everyone realized that was stupid. Yes. And so because of that, we had no new Fantastic Four title for 3 years. Rhea and Sue would all basically Secret Wars, doing whatever, and then returning again to 2018 by Dan Slott. The Thing joined the Fantastic Four, the Secret Wars, and Johnny Storm became part of the Inhumans and joined also the Uncanny Avengers. Yes, seriously, he did this. Yeah, and also this is the year where like we had a budget. Also, okay, so Daredevil, which was previously by Mark Waid, who got promoted to Avengers. This book was taken up by Charles Soule for the next few years, which was really it had a slow start, but got really good afterwards. So who wrote the X-Tales? Well, so Uncanny X was written by Colin Bunn. All New X-Men was done by Dennis Hopeless. Well, Wolverine prior to Secret Wars had died, thanks to Paul Cornell having 2 volumes that got relaunched, and then Charles Soule killed him off in the really good Death Wolverine book that had a follow-up, which was never had a conclusion, by the way. Yes, the Wolverines, that 20-issue weekly series, had no conclusion. It just ended. They had no wrap-up at all. It's like after Secret Wars, like, oh, maybe the book is going to restart at the Secret Wars because everything got delayed, whatever. Oh, no resolution. What happens to the characters in the book? They still appeared afterwards, but the original characters, oh God forbid we do anything with them. Let's see. Thor was still written by Jason Aaron. He still wrote the title even afterwards. He wrote until 2019. So, Thor and Amazing Spider-Man had no change because of still Dan Slott. Captain America was taken over at the Secret Wars by Nick Spencer. Of course, Iron Man mentioned by Mike Bendis. Let's see. New Avengers, that was taken over by Al Ewing. That book lasted for 18 issues and got relaunched, I think it was in 2016, I think it was, as U.S. Avengers, and then it got canceled in 2017 because of Secret Empire. I'll talk about it next time. I'm going to about 2016 stuff. Let's see. Was there anything else? Spider-Man was done by Dennis Hopeless. That went on to about 2017, I think it was. It went on for a little while. So after Secret Wars, Secret Wars. Wolverine X ended prior to that one, so yeah, the last issue basically was signed Access. Storm did have an ongoing series in 2014 that got canceled after like 11 issues. He currently has one right now, and that was on by Greg Pak. Okay, what about Hulk? What did he do after Secret Wars? Well, at the Age of Ultron, book was taken by Gary Duggan. And then, I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, it was, they had Greg Pak return the title as Totally Awesome Hulk. And then he left in 2017. And he got replaced with Al Ewing for the really good Immortal Hulk book, which I'll talk about that another time. Let's see. I'm trying to think here. I think at the Secret Wars, I don't think there was any more crossovers that year. Nothing I can think of, no. 2016. started out with. I don't think it was in that crossover. I think it was a Monster crossover. I think it was. Monster Unleashed. That was it. Monster Unleashed. But 2016. This particular year had the launch of a crossover that is the only crossover ever that has ever happened by Marvel Comics. This is the only crossover they ever published, as long as I have been reading comics, that had zero build-up. There were none. It just randomly happened because of two major reasons. 10th anniversary original story and Captain America Civil War is coming for you. That being Civil War 2. And this also ended up being, sadly, the last event written by Brian Michael Bendis. This was also the first crossover he wrote since AVX. Yes, Infinity was done by Jonathan Hickman along with Secret Wars. Jason Aaron did Original Sin. Axis was done by Rick Remender. Also 2015, Rick Remender left the company. It hasn't come back since. It's been 10 years. I think Hickman left too in 2015, though he did come back for X-Men stuff. Let's see. I think it was in. It was after the Civil War 2 wrapped up. They had another Marvel Now for reasons. Iron Man got relaunched that year, which thank God that was the only title that got relaunched that year. So also in 2015 we had Thor get relaunched at let's see, it was Thor got it was Thor God of Thunder after AVX, which that lasted for 25 issues, and then got restarted as simply Thor because of the events of the opening issue of Thor #1, which actually took place during issue 1. Yes, because Thor lost his arm, and the Original Sin, he lost the ability to use Mjolnir. He would not get the hammer back until 2019. Actually more like 2018 got back. Excuse me. So, then started something after Original Sin, something that was still to this day very mixedly received of an idea Jason Aaron did with Thor title. He decided to give the mantle of Thor to Jane Foster, who at the start was a random woman, and then she becomes Thor for the next, I kid you not, for the next 2 years she is Thor. And as for the original Thor, he is simply the unworthy Thor, or simply the Odin son. Yeah, that's what I did with him. For all reasons. Avengers had a very interesting thing. Because after Civil War 2, this book also got relaunched simply as Avengers at the Civil War 2, which I think was the only crossover series got relaunched I could think of. Captain America Sam Wilson that got relaunched. Oh, there was one other thing released in 2016 aside from. Actually, Martial Release did not come out in 2016, it was 2017 that came out. It was actually Standoff, a really good crossover, which prior to that we had the launch of 2 very brief ongoing series. Actually, there's a few series we got to mention got launched in the same period of time. We had S.H.I.E.L.D., which lasted for 12 issues, which was written by Mark Waid, and each issue did different artists. Really good title. It was the title that brought in the rest of the cast, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., except Grant Morrison. He actually he appeared. Grant Ward. He appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. book, piloting the Avengers, the Iron Man Silver Centurion armor. Phil Coulson debuted in the series Battle Scars, which he's still around somewhat per se, but he's not doing much nowadays. Like the most recent thing he got involved was he was the avatar for Death. Yes. Was anything else? 2016 also started because of the fact there was a storyline called Grounded for Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon got their own separate books, which Rocket got a chance to fight Kraven Hunter, which I thought that'd be really cool. I'm trying to think, was anything else? Hmm. I think it was also in 2016 we had the very first Star Wars crossover, that being Vader Down. And then 2016 had the Screaming Citadel title because, well, that title, now Vader Down was a cross between Star Wars and Darth Vader, while in the case of Screaming Citadel, that was a crossover between Star Wars and Dr. Aphra. And then there was not a new crossover again for about, I kid you not, for at least for 5 years. Until we had the War of Bounty Hunters crossover in 2020, I think it was. So when Iron Man and Avengers, all the different Avengers relaunched simply, well, with the same creative team. Well, I think they changed the artists, but the same writers. They also 2016 also did the launch of Champions. Also by Mark Waid, who did the first 18 issues of the series, well, this volume anyways, before it was taken up by Jim Zeb, and then the book got restarted, and then the book got canceled 10 issues, and then it was launched. Had one more volume released in, I think it was like 2020, I think it was, because the stupid outlawed stuff, and that's been it for. Well, there is a new Champions book, but it has nothing to do with the original one. Yeah. I don't think it was anything else. Well, also that there was this thing where post Secret Wars for the next few years, for some weird reason, I'm not sure why this is, but this is the period of time that I was one thing as a fan of Spider-Man, I was really irritated with this, where Spider-Man did not show up for these crossovers. In Civil War 1, he shows up at the start and disappears, never seen in the main story. In the case of Secret Empire, he does show up for that one. But not in the case of Secret Empire, I'll talk about it next time. But in the case of like anything new, like anything special happened in 2016, well, aside from a new Champions title and 2 relaunches, and one a crossover and very mixed received, let's see. Captain Marvel got relaunched as Mighty Captain Marvel that year for reasons. Though the one thing bad about the event was that it pretty much nearly ruined Captain Marvel's reputation with fans because of his stupid pigheadedness during that story. Yeah, and also the fact this whole thing was over a guy who can see the future. And Tony Stark looking at his brain, his predictions are 10% accurate. And Carol Danvers against Gospel. And the whole thing with this story is in a feeling of profiling. Yes. Where it's like stuff happened, complete random. Also, Ultimates got launched, basically post-Secret Wars had a launch of an Ultimate by Al Ewing. That, for some reason, after Civil War 2, got restarted after 13 issues, and then for some weird reason, not sure the reason for this, at issue what appeared to be issue 11, it was renumbered to randomly issue 100. Yes, for some weird reason, there's 100 issues of Ultimates. Yeah. 2015 also had a launch of a Wolverine title. X2 Wolverine titles. We had All New Wolverine by Tom Taylor. I tell it's really good. Heck, even the creators of Laura love that title too. I love it. There is also a start of Old Man Logan. Yep. They also had the brief launch of Weird World, which got canceled after only 6 issues. Joshua Williamson, prior to Secret Wars, had New Illuminati. Actually, after Secret Wars, he had New Illuminati. He had Illuminati and a few other titles. And I think Humphreys had like one other title, and then the book got canceled after only 7 issues because of Jump DC. In difference between 2016 for Marvel and DC, DC had a slightly better year because they had Rebirth. Marvel just had a couple relaunches and a really bad crossover. And Bendis himself would not do no crossover again until he did Event Leviathan, which was a mini-series, which didn't cross or anything, but it was a really good story. I thought it was. But was there any departures in 2018? None I can think of, no. But not much to say here about this. But that's pretty much what this episode has been. Just a little more highlights from 2011, 2013, and highlights from 2014, 2015. Yep. 2016, excuse me, okay? So yes, I'm going to hear because it's going to have late. So I'll see you all tomorrow, okay?